What happened to the 3 men in Kansas City who were found allegedly frozen in their friend's backyard while he slept away for 2 days, completely, allegedly, unaware of the fact that they were back there? We're going to talk about it in today's video. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's back there, Roscoe's over there. It's bath time for Mr. Roscoe, but it's talking time for Mr. Paul. I'm sitting in front of the sofa. Now today we're going to be talking about a highly requested case that y'all were asking for my opinion on, and that is what's known as the Kansas City 3. Now in a moment we're going to kind of go over the little overview of it, but most of this video is like an overview of the case, so instead of our usual little 60-second couple of sentences is what it's about, we're going to have just basically a whole video about it, okay? At the time of this video, no one has been charged. There is a lot of allegations, this, that, and the other. Yes, we have gotten the tox report back. So there's that. There's a whole bunch of he said, she said, or we think this and that type thing. So as I always say, just keep in mind, I ain't no doctor, I ain't no lawyer, I ain't no cop, nothing credentialed, unless sofa opinions come with a credentialing, and then I should be credentialed in them, okay, let's be honest. But other than that, literally, y'all, this is just my opinion. I'm looking up the same stuff y'all can look up and coming to my own conclusions, so just keep that in mind when we're talking in the comment section and all that. So anyways, that being said, let's jump in, but before that, if you do want to follow Roscoe and I outside of the old YouTube, well, we've also got the Instagram, it's on the screen, it's in the description. Go on, try it out. Now with that being said, let's jump into today's video. Roscoe, honey, bunny, wani, are we just gonna lick the whole video?
Say yes, Father, leave me be, thank you. I have 100,000 subscribers. You cannot talk to me.
So January 7th, the Chiefs were playing the Los Angeles Chargers. Jordan Willis had several friends over. Their names are as follows: David Harrington, Clayton McGinney, and Ricky Johnson, and also a guy named Alex, aka Lee. Now their friendship stretched all the way back to their high school days at Park Hill High School. Now this is where the story will vary a little bit, but we're just going to go over it very briefly here and get into that later. But at midnight, one friend Lee, he leaves, and the others allegedly continue watching Jeopardy. But somewhere after that, something went terribly wrong. Jordan maintains he waved off his friends at 2 a.m. and then was like asleep on the couch or whatever he's claiming he did for the next 2 days. Now, however, there seems to be a couple of versions of what really happened and at what time. And like I said, we'll get into that a little bit later. So 2 days later, when loved ones been worrying about the men, one of the men's fiancés goes over to Jordan's house. April Mahoney goes there and sees that the cars are still parked out front. And of course, she's going to be like, you know, what's up? Why? Like, hello, we're trying to get a hold of everybody. What's going on? So she breaks in, like, into the backyard area. But as soon as she does, this is when nightmares come true. Soon after she discovers the body of Harrington, he is deceased on the porch. Now, she calls police, they do a welfare check. They discover that the body of her fiancé and Johnson are in the backyard. Now, the men were reportedly frozen in the backyard, and Jordan Willis had allegedly been sleeping in the house for 2 days next to a fan with noise-canceling earplugs or headphones on and had no idea. And this has kicked off a massive what really happened narrative with this case on the internet. Okay, so that is like the little overview of it, but like I said, this whole video is going to kind of be an overview, but that was the quick, let's just throw some stuff out there. So if you are not familiar with this case at all, we're all on the same page. Okay, so Jordan Willis. We need to talk a little bit more about him before we continue on. So let's dig a little bit deeper into Jordan. So Jordan Willis is 38 years old. He is an HIV scientist. And according to an article by Daily Mail, after talking with people that knew Jordan in high school, he was dubbed the chemist in high school because he was known for mixing up drug combos to get high. He'd be like, what do you want to feel like in this situation? Well, let's try this and let's try that. Keep that in mind, because that's one thing you're going to see in some of the interviews we watch and whatnot, is there is this vibe of almost like, if you know type situation, this not being spoken about, at least in my opinion, and I'll speak further to that when we watch some of these interviews. But for right now, just keep that in the back of your head as we continue forth. Now, what I want to do is I want to refer to a screenshot real quick. Now, this is that article I was talking about, and you see here it says, he used to say to them, what are you feeling like today? The source told DailyMail.com. I'll make you up something containing the ingredient, this ingredient or that ingredient. He would customize drugs for them. Now, again, this is, you know how these articles go, a source close to the family, a source, but we will hear directly from one of these people here in a little bit. And speaking of, let's go ahead and just look at this clip. It's a little interview conducted with one of the cousins of the, I call them victims, whether it's victims of circumstance or whatever, I don't know, but it is what it is. So let's watch that now and we'll talk about it. On the screen, you're going to see a tweet put out by Alex Caprario. I hope I'm saying his last name right. He's a News Nation national correspondent, Emmy Award-winning investigator, son, brother, and funkle, he says. So give him a follow if you're following this case, because he's on it, okay? So he's interviewing the cousin in this, and let's just watch a few of these clips and we'll talk about it.
A lot of times I'm hearing that David, Clayton, and Ricky were like brothers. Jordan was kind of off on the side.
Mm-hmm.
True?
Jordan's a chemist, bro.
Jordan's what?
Jordan's a chemist. They all knew him as that. It was easy for them to go have fun, but he f***ed up. He made a mistake. Jordan was the chemist. He's a scientist, right? He does what he needs to do. Now, to use my cousin, my best friend, as a guinea pig? No.
What about Alex Lee? What do you know about him?
I know him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Any idea that he might have brought drugs?
Hell no.
No?
Jordan had him. Jordan was one.
So you don't think any more attention should be paid on Alex Lee?
Alex Lee is a good man. He's a good man. Alex Lee is a solid. He was one of their best friends forever. Jordan is somebody that is known from high school as like creating drugs for people to make them feel better in certain situations. Okay, well, you want to do this? Okay, I'm gonna make this for you. I'm gonna make this for you. I'm gonna make this for you, and handing them out. The police are doing their job. If it takes time, it takes time. I will never tell them they're not doing what they should be doing. They're doing the best they can. It takes time because you want it to be correct at the end of the day. And that's what I hope, is when at the end of the day it comes out correct.
Okay, so a lot was said in this little clip. Now, a couple of things. First of all, I agree totally with what he's saying at the end about like if they need to take their time to make this correct, all that type of stuff, 100%, right? We see this so many times in these cases where, yes, cops are not perfect, they mess up, I get it. But some things just have to take a little bit of time, and again, so I totally agree with that. Now, one thing that is interesting is the comment section on this particular gentleman here. So, from Reddit to Twitter, people had a lot to say. And again, it is what it is. A lot of people commented on this guy's behavior, citing, like this person here says, the guy is buzzed too. I know someone drunk and high when I see it. I don't think I would have interviewed him in this shape. They're upset with, the interviewer. Another commenter says, he has a title of computational scientist, not chemist. This is someone who takes all the equations, the data sets, the test variances, and helps to find where a cure is causing other changes or side effects. One short job in a wet lab, but still as data. Now, other people are saying, I knew that as soon as I heard he was a chemist. Sadly, it happens a lot. Fentanyl is my guess, so sad. Waiting for the autopsy, and what a wild plot twist. Why didn't it affect him then? No one ever thought about this. So that being said, and the vibe that I get, again, I don't know any of these people. I don't know their friendships. I don't know any of this. So one of the things they were asking about with one of the gentlemen is because there is some drug history present with some of the victims in this, and one of the other people who was at the party or the gathering, whatever you want to call it. So the vibe I get from this guy is that these people all knew each other in high school. So if this dude had a reputation back then of being the chemist, and then all of a sudden all the friends turn up, deceased, obviously you add 2 and 2 and it doesn't look good, right? Now the whole thing about he's a scientist doesn't play any measure with me, because just like the one commenter said, like a scientist can mean many things, right? So if this dude was like the one that was like you go to his house to party from high school and that's his vibe, he has since checked himself into rehab, right? So that dynamic is there. However, I'm not sitting here on my side of the fence saying, oh, Jordan's guilty, he did this, and we'll get to that in just a minute as to kind of where my thoughts are with it, with all the information that we have as of today, which is February 9th, by the way. So keep that in mind. Now let's keep going before we get into just nothing but my opinion on it. So now, like I said, Jordan checked himself into rehab. He left his home soon after the situation took place. He claimed that he never left the house for 2 days. He slept with those noise canceling headphones on, and therefore he didn't hear anyone knocking and of course was completely aware of the friends being deceased in the backyard. He never left the house, nothing. Now, remember earlier how I said that he claimed to have said goodnight at 2 a.m.? Okay, well, let's revisit that, and specifically Alex, aka Lee's version. So Lee's attorney's versions of things is different from Jordan's, unfortunately. There is a difference in regard to Jordan saying the last time he saw them was at 2 a.m. and that Lee only received Facebook Messenger messages from loved ones. So he received text messages from McGinney's fiance and from Johnson's mother. Lee in turn reached out to Willis and Johnson, but he never heard back from them. So the girlfriend of David Harrington, she recently also talked to Chris Cuomo of News Nation. She had been with him for like 17 years, the kids, you name it. So she said that he was not a drug addict like people said. So you can already see from the comment section that I read, theories and this person this and that person this and all this type of stuff. So she's coming out and saying, look, he's not these things that people are saying. He was a good guy. He went to church. He coached her son's baseball team, just gave a speech about like anti-drugs, that type thing. So she has this different narrative that she wants to set straight. But what I want to do is I want to play a very quick clip here of that interview.
If Jordan did give him something, but whatever comes up in it, David did not intentionally do that. David was, whether it's a drug or it has to be for 3 men to be dead. It doesn't make any sense.
So you hear that. She's using the M word, like this was that. Now, I've seen theories online of he did something and drugged the bodies outside, or they were poisoned, or this and that, whatever. So again, I don't know him. I don't know anyone involved in the case. Okay, so there's that. Now, Ricky Johnson's father also made allegations. He said even though his son might have done drugs like in the past, he just doesn't think that the 3 men all did drugs and fell over dead in the backyard. In fact, he thinks something more sinister happened. And let's refer to an article, a screen clip on the screen real quick, and just read that and go over it. So up here it says, Ricky Johnson Sr. told Fox News Digital that his 38-year-old son was not irresponsible and would not have gone outside in the snow without a coat to freeze to death along with his friends, David Harrington, 37, and Clayton McGinney, 36. I believe he drugged them, dragged them outside, and waited 2 days to call the police, Johnson Sr. said of Willis, whose attorney trashed the claim as ridiculous. Now, his attorney went on to say that these were just baseless allegations. Of course, that's what he's going to say, right? Now, what I want to do now is take a moment and look at the pictures of the house where this took place. So remember, Jordan rented this house. He's claiming, I didn't know they were still here. I stayed in the house. I had this on, that on, whatever. So let's look at these said pictures and just see what the house was laid out like and whatnot. So here we go, the front view of the house. You can tell this is in a neighborhood. This is not some secluded house. It's like a very cute, nice house. Now let's go to the second picture. Here's an overview of the backyard. So it's fenced in, that type thing. Now let's get here. So here's another angle. This is a better angle. And if you see where like the sliding glass doors or the French doors are in the very back underneath that little roof. So these are some of the areas here where some of the, one of the bodies is going to be found. One of the bodies is on the porch. Now, again, one thing that was being said, and these are empty real estate photos, but you see here like these big windows that look out to the backyard. And then let's go on to the next one. Here's the kitchen. So again, you see the tons of windows in the house. Now let's go to the next to last one. This is a little bit of a closer view. So you see how many windows are looking out in that back porch area and back in there. Now let's go to the last picture. This is from the inside looking out. Now, of course, this is empty. He could have had the windows covered, this, that, and the other. But the point being, it is a big backyard, but there's lots of windows too. So yes, I understand it is weird and odd that he never saw them or the 3 or however many cars were up front, right? Because their cars were still there. So it's just like, really? Okay. You didn't see any of that. Got it. You were knocked out. Now, when the cops arrived at the house, like once they came there to, check like what's going on and everything, he allegedly greeted them in boxers while holding an empty wine glass. He was put in handcuffs but not arrested, and then somebody who was like getting the tea, like one of the neighbors, whatever, that they eventually took the cuffs off, and the cops say this is protocol for this. So his parents, Jordan's parents, they're adamant he would never have harmed these friends intentionally, like, or done some of the things that people are saying. Now, he has checked checked into a rehab at this point. I don't know what rehab it is. None of my business, but he's checked into one. Now, TMZ did do some digging and discovered that Clayton had a pharmaceutical license that would allow him to work as a farm tech, and it was set to expire in May 2024. David Harrington was arrested back in Colorado in 2011 for possession of a Schedule II substance, and it seems like he ended up with like a year of probation and paying some fines. Those substances typically in Colorado include opiates like oxycodone, fentanyl, those type of narcotics. So that being said, and that's just a little bit there. And again, this isn't to smear them or whatever their past, but it's interesting to me that there is that. So there is some kind of history with, a little bit of drug use on some parts there. Some situations here, you have the scientist, the farm tech, this, that, and the other. So none of that really feeds into exactly what took place here, because just because somebody might have done something at one point doesn't mean they do something at another point. This is 100% my take on it with the information that we have so far. This is what I personally think happened. There's two things, okay, and only time will tell. I think they had the Super Bowl party, whatever it was. They're hanging out, they're partying. Whether Jordan is the little chemist who still is the place that you go to whenever you want to get high and do stuff, current daytime, I don't know, I can't say. It's kind of the vibe that I got though, is that he was always that dude in high school and probably still is that dude. You can go over there and do that. Other people were saying like, I've heard my hubby or fiance or boyfriend, whatever, mention the name, but this wasn't like a close friend of his or anything like that. So I get a feeling there's a little bit of a party house scenario type thing. This is what I think took place. All the friends get together, they're partying, they're drinking, they're doing whatever. At some point, drugs are introduced. Now, in fact, the toxic report did come back, and we're going to refer to a quick little article up here just to talk about what the families have been told, allegedly. So the families of the dead men have revealed that cops have told them that the 3 dead men had high levels of illicit drugs, 3 times the lethal level of fentanyl, as well as THC and cocaine in their systems. The final tox test results have not been released. So if they know that these 3 things were in there, now again, we don't know if this was, oh, they took this, but it's clear they took it a week ago. You see what I'm saying? Like, we don't know that information yet, at least at the time of this recording. However, there were drugs in there. So I think that this is what happened. Drugs are introduced at some point, right? Whether it was separately or whatever. In this day and age, sadly, you could do something as simple as, I'm going to smoke a joint and it be laced with this stuff, and that's it. Especially if coke was brought out, 100% easily laced with weed. And that can often be like a combo there, like weed and coke and stuff like that. So I think that drugs were introduced at some point, and probably what happened is they all took the same drug. But what's his name, Jordan, either didn't get hit with it hard enough or something. And so he basically was knocked on his butt for 2 days and just in a comatose, and then came to us like, oh, what? My friends, what? Like, he's basically lucky to be alive type situation. The friends took it, and probably at some point, and there's several articles and whatnot that I was looking at with this, talking about people who have frozen to death in like places like Canada, like super cold places where they've been drinking, they've been doing this, and their judgment's impaired, and they're hot, and they want to get, oh God, let's step outside real quick. And they don't understand how cold it is type thing, and they pass out, and they freeze overnight, and they die. And so I'm not saying that's what happened here, but I can almost see it playing out of like, let's step out and get some fresh air. Because if they accidentally took fentanyl and didn't know it, they weren't ready for what was about to hit them, right? And so they could have stepped outside and just, passed out. Now, allegedly, one of them was like in his underwear outside. Now, I'm not sure what that situation's called. Like, when you think you're outside and you think it's super hot, so you start stripping your clothes off. Time will tell when we have more information about that. But again, he could have already stripped to his clothes, like inside, being like, oh my God, I'm burning up, let's get outside. And they slowly each passed out and then succumbed to the elements. So we will have to see with that. Now, my question is this, is who brought the drugs? Who furnished the drugs? 2 versions here. Number 1, pretend they all knew what they were doing, right? And here's the one thing, and I'm not trying to go against people who know their loved ones and whatnot, but as you have probably learned about yourself, others, whatnot, people are very complicated layer individuals. And so while one person might, no, they would never do that. You're hanging out with the boys. Hey, you want to do a little bump real quick, keep the party going? Sure, it's very possible. You know what I'm saying? It's very possible. Oftentimes, the only people who truly know somebody is just the person themselves, right? And I'm not trying to say they had some sinister life and that they can't be a great person here and they decided to do a little bump and keep the party going. And unfortunately, it had something else in it, right? But I'm not saying that's exactly what happened either. If Jordan did some kind of concoction and they knew what was in it, okay, then yes, they're charging people for deaths of people overdosing on these drugs for this very thing, right? So there's that. Say Jordan supplied the drugs, didn't know what was in it. Still just as bad, if not worse, because then it completely blindsides. If you think you're going to smoke a joint and then you die next because of that, I mean, come on, right? Or someone else had the drugs and supplied them and they all took them and they didn't know what was in them. You know what I'm saying? So that's, to me, where the real answer lies. Do I think that Jordan mysteriously came up with something that said, don't ask, just take it, and everybody died? I would like to think not. I would like to hope not. But again, I don't know them. So it could be. The fact that he's not been arrested yet, I think is interesting, but also it just takes time, like that guy said. I think he probably checked into rehab because he lost all his friends. He probably was like, oh my God. Like, pretend he truly didn't do anything sinister, didn't supply the drugs. Say he took somebody else's drugs, and he's like, oh my God, like, we just, what? You know what I mean? Like, he's going to check into rehab. Also, it's probably a very strategic move implemented by his lawyer to be like, bro, you need to go on, shake yourself in. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, you need to just go ahead and start. So there's that too, right? There was that thing, I forget if it was in Colorado where it was, where all those kids died and like one lived from overdosing on fentanyl. This happens way more often than people want to know. And I just feel like that's what took place. My only question is, did they know what they were ingesting? Not that it makes it any better or, oh, okay, well, you know, they deserve it. Not anything like that. But it just won't answer the question of accountability and who the drugs came from. So that's what I think happened. I don't think that he did something to him and drug him outside. I just don't think he did. I mean, this whole scenario is, yeah, they OD'd and passed out outside. You know, that's to me what happened essentially. Now we just get into the accountability of who provided the stuff and was it knowingly ingested. So that being said, what do you think? Now again, I'm recording this on the 9th, so it might be a scenario where more information comes out by the time you see this, but we shall see. Anyway, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Roscoe's here. He says thank you too. He says drop some stuff in the comment section, and until we see you down in that comment section, we'll see y'all soon.